Okay.
And now there's nobody in the waiting room.
Interesting.
There they are.
Okay, a couple of applicants. Yep.
Yep.
Barb Riley is in there as an attendee if you want to promote her.
Oh, yeah, there she is.
Yeah, I just sent her the request.
Hi there.
Hi, Bob. Yeah, unfortunately, Barb, I didn't tell Dan we were doing only online tonight either.
Uh, I
So,
just, I noticed it just because I was looking at the agenda and I was like, oh, I think it's just remote. So you have his phone number?
I do. I texted him. I haven't gotten anything back. It is the last time I sent him a text was 2022, so hopefully the same one. But without him, we don't have a meeting, so
Oh, I'll be right back.
okay.
Joe, correct me if I'm wrong. I thought, did Dan originally had indicated he thought he'd be at the meeting, right?
Yes, he
Okay.
did.
Okay. Hello, folks. The meeting should begin in a moment. We're just waiting for another member at the moment.
He says he will be on in a bit. Oh, yeah, sorry. My bad, folks. He's heading home from the senior center.
10 demerits for you.
Yeah, well, you want to take my place?
No,
And tonight, as an FYI, Cindy Singer of 5 Basin Street is going to come after the River Valley Charter School tonight. So folks can make a Newbury Concom meeting. And for everybody online, FYI, we only have 4 members right now, and without Dan, we do not have a quorum, so we can't have a meeting, which is why we're waiting. Well, there we go. All right. Hi, Dan. Sorry about that.
No problem.
All right, let's bring this meeting to order. This is the April 15th, 2025 Newburyport Conservation Commission meeting taking place on the Zoom platform. And this meeting's being recorded. The first item on the agenda are the meeting minutes from March 18th, 2024. We have any corrections, changes, anything?
Good.
No?
Motion to approve. Second.
Yeah, all in favor? Aye,
Aye.
opposed? Okay. We'll skip the Plum Island updates and go right to the public hearings. We have no certificates of compliance, etc. Can I get a motion to open the public hearings?
So moved.
Second,
Steve Moore,
Yes.
Barb Riley,
Yes,
and Warshall.
yes.
I vote yes. All right, first item is Judith Welsh, 101 Curzon Mill Road. We got a request to continue that until the first meeting in June. That would be June 3rd. Get a motion to continue.
Motion to continue to June 3rd.
second,
All right, Steve Moore,
Yes.
Barb Riley,
yes,
Dan Warshall.
Yes.
I vote yes. Next item is the River Valley Charter School, 2 Perry Way Notice of Intent, continued from March 18th. Do we have anybody from the charter school here tonight?
We have a couple of folks. I'm just making sure they're all able to address the commission.
Okay. Okay, it looks like you guys, your mics are on.
Oh, hi. I can't see who else is on. This is Emily Hunt. I'm a landscape architect with the project. Do you know if Katie Cruz is on?
She is.
Okay, great.
Brian Clemens and that's who.
Katie, are you able to address the commission?
Yes, I am.
Okay,
Um,
great.
and I think that Ryan will also cover one topic. Um,
That's great. Thank you.
and do you have our plans or would you want me to share?
Yeah, sorry. I just wanted to make sure that you had your whole team. Ryan, you're here as well. Is it?
Here, yes, and we're also joined by Karen Hughes.
Okay. Great.
Hey there.
All right, yes, it looks like we have everyone.
Okay, great. Thank you. Yeah, I think this is probably the best plan to talk about. And I'm just going to touch on a couple of revisions to the site layout that we made based on the commission's comments from the last meeting. The first is about the parking in the rear of the building. If you recall, the right-hand side of that parking was head-in parking spaces, so perpendicular parking spaces. And at your request, we switched them all to parallel spaces. We were able to reduce the dimensions of the spaces along Perry Way. We made them a little bit shorter, which is still compliant, so that we ended up with a loss of, I think, 2 spaces overall, which still works for the school. So I think that we were able to achieve your request, and then also kind of accommodate the site layout that the school was hoping for as well. Are there any questions about that before I move on to the second item?
How much room did that give you from from the edge of the wetland?
So we gained 8 feet from where we were before. So
Okay,
those spaces, they were 16 feet long. These parallel spaces are 8 feet wide.
okay, great. Yeah, that's really nice.
Okay, yeah, I have nothing, so if you want to move on to the next one, that's good.
Okay, and then the next change that we made was the shed location. If you recall, we had that next to the driveway in from Low Street. And there was a desire from the commission not to have that within the 25-foot no disturb. So instead, we moved it next to the dumpsters in the upper left corner of the plan. So that's that rectangle there. So we were able to move that out of the 25-foot.
Okay,
And what is the T and the R above the shed there? No,
Those are dumpsters.
okay.
trash and recycling.
Oh, okay.
Okay,
So those were the two revisions that we made to the site layout. And I think that Ryan is going to talk about the variance request.
Thank you, Katie. Also based on comments from the commission from the last meeting, we revised our argument analysis for our variance request to work within the 25-foot no disturbance zone. The only change is to the public benefits included. And so as a brief reminder of the analysis gave last time, although the regulations ordinarily do not permit any kind of disturbance in the 25-foot no disturb zone, the ordinance allows the commission to grant variances from the regulations upon finding that there are no reasonable conditions or alternatives that would allow the project to proceed in compliance with these regulations. Mitigating measures are proposed, and that the project is necessary to accommodate an overriding public interest, such that it's necessary to avoid a decision restricting the property to be an unconstitutional taking without compensation. Now, our previous argument that we went over, we still believe that is that meets the variances standards well enough to justify the commission granting the variance, but now we've expanded the third factor, the public benefit, to include the many benefits of the project that we introduced during our first meeting, namely that these benefits include improved site functionality and stormwater management for both the property and the industrial park in which it's located, increased educational opportunity and safety for River Valley students, and also for traffic entering and exiting onto Low Street, and then the informational signage too. So we added information about how the project will create public benefits by providing educational opportunities and recreational opportunities for River Valley students compared to the property as it exists today with its large amount of impervious surface. We're proposing to build playing fields to improve the playground and to otherwise clean up the property so that in addition to recreation, teachers at the school have opportunity to take kids out and learn more about their natural environment. And River Valley students include kids from Newburyport as well as surrounding communities. So this educational and recreational benefit will benefit those members of the public. And then they'll also be benefited by this improved traffic flow, which will minimize any potential for kids crossing the line during pickup and drop off lines of traffic. It organizes traffic flow into a single file line, entering from Low Street, exiting onto Perry, and then back onto Low Street. And as you can see, and as we discussed, the dashed line to the rear of the property will allow cars to queue up behind so that parents who are looking to be very efficient in their pickup and drop off can wait off of Low Street and off of Perry Way while during those hours. Also note on the plans, the city will be installing a sign limiting the hours in which you can take a left from Low Street so that cars queuing up, if the space on the property is full, they'll be able to do that by taking a right turn onto Low Street and limiting any obstructions to traffic during those peak hours. And those that improvement to traffic flow will extend to the members of the public traveling along Low Street and trying to access the school across the street and everywhere else they go on that busy road. So in addition with the other public benefits that we discussed last time, The project provides overwhelming public benefits to RVCS's students and Newburyport community, in line and exceeding with other variances that the commission has granted other projects, both in the city and within the immediate industrial park as well.
So just clarification that the restriction of taking a left onto Low Street, that's going to be during drop off and pickup times?
It is, yes, so that cars aren't trying to merge with the already formed line of traffic and then blocking traffic behind them.
Okay.
And that's only into the new curb cut proposed that the left turn will be limited. Air cars can go anywhere else they want.
To clarify, that's a no left turn from Low Street into the school's driveway.
Oh, from across the street into the school's driveway.
Right.
Okay.
So one of the other public benefits that was talked about at one time was public access to the playground, et cetera, during non-school hours. Is that still going to happen?
That is still going to happen, and
Okay.
it's likely that River Valley will move forward with accepting CPC funds to build the playground. And as a condition for receiving those funds, the public access easement is still a condition there. So that will also be a public benefit.
Okay. I'm just wondering if we would want to make our approval condition on that also happening.
Yeah, I think we could, well, yeah, Andy, is that a special condition we can put in there?
I don't believe that that would be, I think the applicant would need to demonstrate compliance with the ordinance, in order to satisfy that requirement. It would not be the proper sequence, in my view, to try to condition the permit upon that. I think the applicant would need to demonstrate that per the ordinance at the time of permitting. I think there are problems that one would run into with trying to condition that.
Okay, well, and the other issue is that they're not going to get CPC money if they don't do that. So, and the playground is the reason.
The council does have that in committee right now. I don't know the next date of that discussion, but
Okay.
And it's the schools board hasn't yet to vote on that definitively. They're only the executive committee had met and is feeling favorably towards recommending that to the board. So we wouldn't want to lock us into an approval that would otherwise not pass later on.
We meet and vote on April 30th.
Okay.
And regardless of the public access easement, we feel strongly that all the other public benefits that the project affords are still in line or exceed the previous variances that the commission has granted other projects in the park.
Okay. What's the commission think?
A quick question, I couldn't remember. The drainage off the roof, does that go to the ponds?
It does.
It does,
That
okay.
is an existing conveyance system
Okay,
that will remain in place. We're not proposing to modify that.
okay.
I see, the work on the playground. Are you waiting for DPS to fix the culvert before you do that? Or is that gonna
No.
happen anyway? Okay,
No, we will leave the existing culverts in place until we are sure that the swale system and the culvert under the entrance to Perry Way can accommodate the offsite water.
Okay.
All right. Do we have anything else? You all set, Barb?
Yep.
Okay. Dan, you all set?
Yep, all set. Thank you.
Okay, all right. Do we have anything from the public? Any comments from the public? Raise your hand if so. Seeing none. What do we want to do?
I'll make a motion to issue the variance.
Do I have a second?
Do we need to close the hearing first?
That's, yeah, you know, that's something that, I don't remember. We haven't
Yes,
issued a time. We have to
So
close
I-
it first.
I would close the public hearing if there's no new information you're gonna be taking in and then proceed with that grant of the variance and permit. Yep.
All right, very good.
I'll motion to close the public hearing.
Second,
All right, Steve Moore,
yes.
Barb Riley,
Yes.
Dan Warshaw,
Yes.
and I vote yes. Okay, thank you. We will follow up with this at the end, after we're done with the rest of the hearings.
Thank you.
All right, next item, we're gonna move Cindy Singer, 5 Basin Street, notice of intent up to number 3. We have folks from
And Tom
Um,
Hughes,
yes.
are you the only person addressing that application?
It'll be me and Ryan Clemens maybe as well.
Okay,
Okay.
great,
Um,
thanks.
Brian is here in case we have any questions or anything along those lines.
Okay.
So Tom Hughes with Hughes Environmental Consulting here on behalf of Cindy Singer at 5 Basin Street. So this property is located along the basin in a real densely developed section off kind of the end of the southern end of Basin Street. And that's kind of a great picture to show you what we have on property. There's parking up by Basin Street. There's a garage. There's the single family home. And then there is a revetment along the shoreline. The revetment has a Chapter 91 license. There's also a deck structure that was constructed over the revetment and licensed by the Conservation Commission. I think 12-ish years ago. And there's also stairs down to the basin that are incorporated as part of the Chapter 91 license. So the revetment and the stairs down to the basin need to be maintained. Let me go through while we're looking at this photo and just kind of give you an overview of what we're looking at. There's several elements to what we're proposing here. One is if you look at the garage at the top of this photograph, there is interior work with that and some work on one exterior wall that is essentially going to put a bathroom in so that there's a easy place for visitors, et cetera, to who are there to just kind of go in quickly into a small bathroom. And then they're going to put a kitchen that will open up to the outside. So when it's needed, you'll basically open up some panels and there'll be an outdoor kitchen within that. None of that constitutes an alteration within the ordinance or the Wetland Protection Act, but there will be work around that area. The other thing is if you look at the covered porch on the back of the house, you can see up on the second floor there. We are looking to add a second floor deck at that level. You'll notice beneath that area on that aerial photograph, you can kind of see pretty well. There's a paver patio area and then there's lawn. And then the last part is along the shoreline, the Chapter 91 revetment. That revetment has settled since it was originally constructed, and the deterioration of the revetment and there are licensed bulkhead walls within that as well. But underneath where that deck structure is, the flattening of the revetment has ended up focusing water energy, wave energy up onto that deck structure, causing uplift and, accelerating the demise of that structure, in addition to the revetment becoming less effective. And under Chapter 91, we're obligated to maintain the licensed structures. If we can go to the plan sheet now, I think that's probably the next thing to look at. So you'll see there's really nothing labeled on the garage because all that work is interior. You can see the proposed second floor deck that is added. You can see a spiral stair proposed on the eastern end of it, that kind of like half round nub. Okay, right in there. And then the rest of the deck just kind of has a nice little interesting geometry. But the idea is to provide an area for recreation on the second floor that's outdoors, and expand the available space in the summer really up in that area. That is all going to be pile supported, completely open underneath. It is high enough up in the air that we don't envision any changes to the lawn vegetation that's located under it, and we don't intend any changes to the paver area as well. It's going to be a fairly light footprint as far as that structure goes. And then the last thing that we're proposing is reconstruction of the revetment. Lisa O'Donnell, a structural engineer, has taken a look at this several times, and her recommendation is that a couple things be addressed. One is resetting of the revetment to mirror what was licensed by Chapter 91, reestablish the slopes and the footprint. The other thing is some of the materials that are used in that revetment, she thinks are not appropriate for what the revetment needs to function, and she's recommending stone that will sort of fit together a little bit better than what's there, as well as putting filter fabric underneath to prevent sand from washing through, depleting the dune of the sand, but also kind of undermining the function of the structure. That's going to necessitate disassembling and removing the existing deck from it. And the other thing that she's recommending is, rather than replacing it in the footprint exactly as is that it essentially be lifted up about a foot and use through-flow decking. So it's both a little bit further removed from the revetment, but also doesn't have the uplift forces on it. And that will be supported with helical piles that will be located in the same places where the deck is currently supported. And the idea there is we would lift it up a little bit, and since the eastern end of that lands currently on stone, just below the break and slope, it will be lifted up a foot and then extended back to meet grade, still at the area where the stone is located, but right at the edge of lawn, because this is a deck platform that you walk directly on from the lawn. There's not an awful lot of room there between the house and where that deck is located, but we would, in the process, we would be eliminating the southernmost end of the existing deck, so that we don't have any change in the overall area of the structure. We're just reconfiguring it so that it's a little bit more resilient, and elevated up just a touch higher using that through flow decking. And lastly, off of that reconstructed deck structure, we would reconstruct the stairs, and that area that takes you from the house down the stairs. The stairs are part of the Chapter 91 license. And we would also propose a seasonal gangway down to a seasonal ramp and float system. While we're in there working on the deck, the idea is to also provide some access to and from the water. So there's several elements with the project, and I just wanted to first just introduce the commission to that. And then I'm happy to delve further into any elements of this or open it up to the commission for questions.
So that float system is new, is that correct?
Yeah, the ramp and float would be completely new.
Okay, so how are they stabilized and anchored?
So,
and-
so one thing I'm looking at, we will need to get you a detailed cross section on the floats, but the basically the floats would be helix anchors. They'll be up 2.5 feet on skids because it's it's a mud flat underneath. We have to stay 2.5 feet above at low tide. So they'll rest on skids. They'll be held in place by helix anchors with elastic rods, and meet the standard BMPs for docks. Natural Heritage also has the application because that area is within habitat, and marine fisheries as well. So we're waiting on comments from both of those.
Okay,
And Tom, is the plan to store those on the deck off season, or where they're going to be stored?
I will confirm that with you at the next meeting. I believe the plan would actually be to remove them from the site, but I'll confirm that prior to the
Okay.
next meeting.
Is the deck, does that have a Chapter 91 license, or is it just the revetment?
No.
here?
So when that was originally permitted by the commission, the applicant first permitted sort of after the fact the revetment and got the Chapter 91 license, and then came back with a revised plan and put the deck behind mean high water. And we're preserving that location behind mean high water. And then that deck steps down onto the stairways that are part of the Chapter 91 license. But there's no way that we can do the repairs recommended by the structural without removing the structure and then rebuilding it. So we're trying to make sure that what we rebuild, while still functional, has more resiliency and is going to be less prone to uplift and damage.
so is the work on the revetment going to be done from land or by water or?
So my suspicion is it's going to be done by barge. We're leaving it till we actually select a contractor to be sure. There's really no good way in to this area from land. The area is this is one of those properties that has for years been just heavily landscaped, really intensely developed, and it's too three-dimensional to be able to get any equipment of any size back there. What I put in the narrative is that we would provide to the commission an access plan. Basically, the owner, Cindy's very particular about not having a contractor damage that property. And you can see while it looks on this side like there's room for equipment to move around, there are pinch points between the garage and the house, and on the other side, between the house and landscaping and a generator and all that. So any contractor is going to have to provide a plan on how any of that area that has to be driven over is protected. So the most logical way to work on this would be from the water.
Okay. And is there any salt marsh or anything?
No,
Yeah,
it's
okay.
right down. It's actually sand right along the immediate shore, and then it goes out to sort of the more fine sand that's typical in the basin to a muck.
Okay. So to the to the left of the stairway, is there any work being done on, is that part of the revetment?
That's
Or-
also part of the revetment. So there's a bulkhead and revetment in that area. So that also is going to have work done on it. Lisa O'Donnell is actually sending me some representative sections of the work and a plan view that I will update into the record on that as well.
Okay.
Tom, is there enough water there for a barge to stay afloat at low tide?
No, there's no place in the basin where a barge can stay afloat at low tide. During an extreme low, almost the entire basin, except for a tiny little thread, is empty. But a barge sitting on the substrate is not the end of the world. I mean, it's got such a flat bottom that it typically doesn't do any harm, but if necessary, it could be scheduled to only occur during the higher end of the tide cycle. This is going to be sort of a very difficult site to access, so we're going to need to be able to provide, a contractor-specific access plan to the commission for its review and approval, I think, before we can do the work. I don't see how we could present you with anything meaningful now and not be coming back to you and changing it in the future.
Through the chair, this is Newburyport. I just wanted to note that Julie Goverson's joined the commission.
Oh, okay. She's been approved?
Well, she's with us this evening. She had raised her hand. She was in the audience,
okay.
general audience.
I
Yeah.
did not see that, sorry.
All right. Oh, so is Julia going to join the commission? Is that
Yeah,
what
yeah.
Oh, excellent. Okay. Do you know, has she been sworn in yet? Because unfortunately, a new member can't act
Yeah.
on anything.
No, that process is before the city council.
Right. Okay.
I was just noting that she's joined.
If you let me know when that happens, we can figure out whether we want to run a new legal ad and rerun a butter notice just to expand the ability of folks to participate. Because once a hearing's opened, a new member can't act on it unless the hearing's restarted.
Okay,
So
so
we're
partially up to
definitely-
you as applicant whether you want to refile. Yeah.
Yeah, no, and I think if you've only got 4, is the total membership now 4?
Yes.
Yeah.
I think, I don't think that's necessarily a bad thing. So I'll talk to the client team about that.
Okay.
And I'll talk to Ryan, who's, with us tonight. He's heard the discussion, but we've done that before in other towns when it's,
Sure.
when it's been down to 4. I think it's always better to have more folks.
Yes, Julie.
Hi all. I just raised my hand because I don't mean to be participating tonight as a new member, because again, I'm not been sworn in yet, as Tom pointed out. But I just had comments as a resident, so you can wait to answer me till the end. Just wanted to make note. Thanks.
Very good.
Right. So
right.
I do have a question, just and I want to hear what Julia's input is, and I think if we're going to make her an eligible voter, I don't think that's a problem, but Andy, I'd just be curious if you think if Julia speaks as a resident and that becomes a member.
I don't take issue with it, but it's up to her what she wants to offer now or in the future. But
okay, yeah, no, that's fine, because as staff, we did meet, Ryan and I did meet with her about this, in particular, the deck area and the revetment repair. So definitely be interested in her feedback after we get input from the commission. And I wouldn't even mind if you took her out of turn, because she has advised the commission in the past on projects and as city staff was involved with this.
So, Tom, you're saying that the right-hand end of the deck is going to be removed, but
yeah, if you can
added to the same length on the left-hand side, so the
No.
stairway is
No, so if first of all, if you take a look at this picture and you can see the deck goes straight over currently to the property line.
Yeah.
With the abutter there. Now if we can go to the plan view. And Andy, if you can go to plan view and then zoom down to that area. So what we're doing is, you see the end, it actually goes over the property line a little bit. You can see the area that's not hatched in, right? So that section there would be completely removed. And then what we do is we lift it a foot, and because we lifted a foot, it's now not accessible from the lawn area. So and it's still within the area of rock. So what we're doing is we're bringing it back up. I think it's about 1.5 feet to meet grade, still within that rock area. There is some soil that's been added over the rock, rocks over the years, but we still end up over the revetment with the structure, but we bring it landward a little bit so you still can get on it. So the square footage of the structure remains the same. There'll be less supports because we're eliminating the end. And I think the landward end is partly cantilevered as it meets grade. So it gets a little bit wider left to right. It's only like 7 feet now. So it goes to like, 9-ish feet in width.
Okay, and then what happens with that area that is no longer covered by the deck? Is that
So that area
It's
is part of the Chapter 91 revetment. So that gets repaired. It becomes riprap. We could look at whether or not we could do some type of, especially above mean high water, we may be able to do some type of sort of adding some soil in the spaces between the stone. I'd have to make sure with Lisa O'Donnell that didn't cause any problem, maybe putting some, adding some vegetation to it. But at current, that area functions more like a coastal bank than it does a coastal dune, but it is coastal dune covered with revetment from a regulatory point of view. It doesn't really have a lot of dune function though.
Yeah, I think that would be good if you could add some native vegetation.
Yeah,
there.
we can look at within that area, and I'll have to, again, I'll have to make sure with the engineer, talk with the client and see what we could do within that area where we take the deck out. That will also all be, fresh stone, and I believe it's being designed so that there are, better void pockets within the revetment. That one of the things about the voids in a revetment is it takes kind of the wave energy and converts it into current and heat, which essentially dissipates the energy that comes in when it's functioning properly. Once it slumps and becomes smoother the way this is done, it becomes more reflective. So we probably could plant within those voids in the upper reaches.
Okay.
Tom, do you plan on repairing or replacing the bulkhead portions of this protection?
The parts that are Chapter 91 licensed, yes.
Are there parts that are not Chapter 91 licensed?
I don't think so, but I mean, yes, I mean the Chapter 91 license is for the structure, and the structure is required to be maintained as is. We would have to essentially relicense and alter our design if we were to try to remove any of those elements. Lisa O'Donnell's letter, which was only uploaded today, so I understand if you've not read it, you'll have time before the next hearing to review that, certainly. But she believes that those bulkhead things are also providing to kind of minimize to some extent the amount of uplift generated on the structure, and kind of works hand in hand with that revetment.
So you don't know yet exactly how much work needs to be done to that bulkhead, is that correct?
Well, her recommendation, Lisa's recommendation is first of all, you can't do the bulkhead work. The bulkhead is integral to the revetment. It's not like separate, it's within the revetment.
Mm-hmm.
And if we go back to the aerial photograph, you can see, like on the left-hand side, you can see the bulkhead. There's also old bulkhead under the deck on the right. You can see the bulkhead right next to the stairs that runs to the left. And there's revetment behind it and revetment in front of it.
Yeah.
So we essentially have to disassemble everything to fix it right and then put it all back together.
Okay.
Will all that riprap material, will that all be removed and replaced with new material?
The bulk of it, yeah. Some of it may be suitable for the bedding material. Typically, the way you would design this is, and this doesn't have filter fabric, but typically you'd have the filter fabric behind it. You'd have what's called a bedding stone, and then you'd have the armor stone. And so some of it may be suitable, but there are things in there. A large part of it was constructed with a fantastic old Yankee technique of putting unopened bags of concrete down there and letting the water wash against them and cure the concrete as pillows. And then there's some concrete rubble, there's some smaller stone. It's just a hodgepodge of material. So any material that is not reused within the structure under the advice of Lisa O'Donnell, essentially it would all be removed from the site.
And does Lisa's proposal address any issues with regard to end scouring on the adjacent properties?
It doesn't change the dimensions, the size, or the geometry really of what was originally licensed. Anything we do like that goes beyond standard maintenance under Chapter 91. And that's in fact one of DEP's comments is for us to verify with the Chapter 91 program what we're proposing fits within what's allowed under the license and what's required by the license. And their only other comment, which just came in today, has to do with addressing, they're suggesting that we address the redevelopment standards of the riverfront regs, which is fine. We can look at that.
Column's gonna be, or the pile's gonna be installed for the deck.
Yeah, so the piles, it would be helical for several reasons. One is it's easier to get equipment to install helicals in a tight area. If we have to do it from a barge, it's easier. The other thing is the helical blade provides some additional resistance to uplift. Whereas unless you use a deeper pile, a H pile has less resistance. And that's something, I apologize. I thought that was going to be ready right around when we filed. Lisa's just slammed right now. She's anticipating getting me that detail sometime later this week, and I intend on uploading it as soon as we've got it. And I'll also send an email to Andy and Joe at the time I do that so that you guys can be informed when it's available.
Okay. We have anything else?
We were
Hearing
having a
nothing.
site visit.
Oh,
Joe,
yeah. That probably wouldn't be a bad idea,
What's that?
having a site visit.
Sure.
Okay. We'll Tom, are there any times that would be better for you on that?
For me, I'm crazy booked through until Wednesday next week. Beyond that, I can fit something in, and I may be able to squeeze in time later on Tuesday, but I would defer to the commission. And then if you need me to have Lisa O'Donnell on site, I just don't have her calendar, her schedule available. And then it wouldn't be a bad idea for Ryan possibly to be there as well. But Ryan's on with us. But the other thing, I do want to remind you of public comment as well.
No, I know. Yeah, I
Okay.
know. We're gonna do that too. I'm just getting a little of these housekeeping things going. We can next week we can set up we'll send around an email and set up a site visit for everybody.
Okay.
All right, so for public comment, we will start with Julia Gottfredson.
Thank you, Chair. Okay, so my first question on this one is, with regard to the proposed garage, or the changes to the proposed garage with a new kitchen and a new bathroom, has that gone through a zoning review yet? Are those allowed?
Answer that. Yes, the entire project, including the kitchen and the work to the garage, has been approved and permitted by zoning. We've received a special permit and are in the appeals period. The kitchen is on the outside, and the garage on the inside remains a garage. There's no extra living space proposed. And so there was no permission necessary in order to build that aspect of the project.
Okay, got it.
Right.
So regardless of the flood zone, it doesn't have to be elevated because it's not interior living space?
Correct. It's an
Okay.
outdoor kitchen.
Okay. And what is the flood zone in this location?
VE 17.
So it's a VE 17. Okay. So then my next question is with regard to the deck. So you're removing the existing deck, which is over the revetment, and constructing a new deck that is of slightly different configuration, but same overall area. But my concern about that is that it wouldn't necessarily be allowable if it was a new deck. And given that you're removing the old deck and building a brand new deck, that's not necessarily permittable under the regulations. So how is it that what was your sort of regulatory argument for the new deck?
Yeah, so so first of all, the language within the regs that actually we talked with you about in your office, and we actually adjusted our plans after that discussion.
I don't remember that. Sorry, I don't.
Yeah, no, we came in, and the language within the regs about replacing a deck essentially says that you can replace a deck with an RDA if you expand a deck.
It has to meet the
The
regulations.
expanded part needs to meet the regulations,
Is
right?
is that what our regulations say?
Yeah, that's what it says in the part about filing. So it says that some of it can be done RDA if you expand it. I'm paraphrasing right now. When we discuss this with you, what you had recommended is to make sure
I got to
that,
interrupt you. I'm sorry.
Okay.
I do not remember discussing this with you or making any recommendations.
right.
But
Okay. Well,
if
so
you can tell me
Ryan,
when we did that, that'd be great.
yeah, Ryan, when was that? About 2.5 months ago? 3 months? It might have been
And
longer.
up in the-
It was further ago. It was
in the-
last summer.
Yeah.
Okay.
So that makes sense why it might not be freshest in your mind, Julia. But the standard under the ordinance, although the ordinance doesn't normally allow redevelopment in the V zone, it does allow work that modifies, maintains, or repairs existing buildings or structures within limits of their existing foundations, but don't result in an addition or modification to the foundation or footprint. But it also allows repair or replacement of decking boards of existing non-compliant decks with flow-through decking, which is what we're proposing here as well.
Right. But it is a new deck rather than replacement of existing.
Right.
And it is
Right.
a new configuration of a deck.
Right. And what we had talked to you about, and I understand you don't remember or recall, but was, if we were to reconfigure exactly as is, rebuild exactly as is, then it ends up being a foot lower, and more subject, especially with sea level rise, to ongoing battering from reflected water. The idea of lifting it up requires reconfiguration of it so that it's still usable. So what you had suggested was keeping the foundation elements in the same locations. So we're replacing wooden posts with helical piles, but they're going in the same spots as where there are existing posts supporting it. We're not increasing the foundation in any way. And then the parts that are expanded back to meet grade, again, still within the revetment footprint, those areas that's sort of cantilevered back, and the And then we remove an area from the southern end so that we're not increasing the square footage at all.
Okay.
And this is unique in that it's over a Chapter 91 licensed structure
Mhm.
that we have to maintain under that license. And the only realistic way to maintain that thing is to
Well,
release
you're
the structure.
not obligated to maintain the deck.
No, but we're obligated to maintain the revetment, and in
Right.
order to maintain it, we
You have
have
to remove the deck.
Yeah.
Right. I'm just saying, I mean, I'm just trying to clarify that you're not obligated to maintain the deck, and this is a new deck. I just wanted to make that clear, regardless of what conversation we had
Right.
earlier in the summer.
I mean, I would say it's a replacement deck is what it is.
Yeah,
But
sure.
yeah.
And in
I thought
case-
at one point somebody, Tom, I think you mentioned that the deck was part of the Chapter 91 license.
No,
So the stairs
Oh,
the stairs down to the water, the bulkhead, and the revetment are all Chapter 91 licensed.
I was under that same impression that
Yeah, no,
I
but
thought you mentioned that the deck was part of the Chapter 91 license.
No, the deck was built on the Chapter 91 licensed structure just behind mean high water. And the problem is, while we could get in there and we could beef the thing up, replace decking boards, and make it functional again as is if we didn't have to work on the revetment. It's, and we started this process, boy, maybe 4 years ago, possibly 5. Cindy had actually been in here with a different consultants talking to you guys about a plan that, as an informational thing. And then we started on this process. Lisa O'Donnell came out. We were well on our way to filing about 3 years ago, and then her husband fell ill, and that was just a miserable couple of years of Cindy's life. And Cindy is now wanting to move forward again. So the deck has not gotten in any better shape, but it's it's something that, in order to properly maintain the revetment, has to be removed in order to do it.
You mean the deck?
The deck, right?
So there's no element of the deck as it is now will remain.
I mean,
it will, every bit of it will be.
Yeah, I mean,
removed.
everything along from property line to property line over that revetment is going to have to come off to properly fix the revetment. There's really physically no other way you do it.
Right. So that's the deck. The deck is gone, and then you want to build a new deck where that one was.
Yeah, we want to be able to replace it, because the only reason, this thing could have been sort of fixed up, but we knew the revetment needed work. So, it seems like if you've got a Chapter 91 licensed structure and the only way to maintain is to remove a structure, and there is a way of reading the regulations that we've gone through, and Ryan and I will work on really spelling out in more detail, more so than what's in my narrative now, how we see this as permittable through the ordinance. And through the regs. But I mean, I think this is a unique situation. You don't have a lot of Chapter 91 licensed structures out there. And allowing one to be maintained is something that, by definition of what the Chapter 91 program is, the public benefit, because it's essentially a public benefit license.
But the deck isn't part of the chapter, is not part of the chapter.
No, but it's built over what is licensed. So.
Right, but replacing the deck doesn't have really anything to do with the Chapter 91 license.
No, but I mean, if we're unable to replace the deck, then it creates an obstacle to being able to properly maintain the revetment. Because it's just, I mean, I guess when we do the site visit, you'll see there's just not a lot of space there, and it has always been an integral part of how that property is used. And also at a really high tide, you can actually bring a kayak up to that thing. It serves as a dock. But, as I said, we'll ferret out that regulatory analysis for you a little bit.
Okay.
Um,
Sorry, I just had one more question on the revetment. So will you have actual like cross sections and materials details and all that that's coming from Lisa?
Yeah, Lisa's preparing. She suggested that 2 cross sections would be appropriate and then a plan view. And I think she wants one through the left side, one through the right side on the cross sections.
Great.
Tom, would
you
this,
know-
would the deck warrant a license, I guess, because it's sitting on top of a licensed structure?
Well, so the the prior owner is the one who did the license, and it looks like they went back and forth on whether or not they were going to pursue a license for the deck, and then they just decided to pull it back behind mean high water and not. You know, if we need to evaluate whether we can, you know, add that to the license, we can certainly do that. But right now we're trying to keep this under a fairly simple maintenance approval under the existing Chapter 91 license rather than trying to amend the approval.
You know, we've talked about Chapter 91 licenses many, many times, and I don't think I've ever seen one.
It is uploaded. It's in your,
Is it?
Yep. And
Oh,
actually,
okay.
I don't know if you want to bring that up. Do you have that?
Yeah, sorry, which document was that?
It's what's it called? It's like license number or something or other. Hold on.
Hang on a second. I might have downloaded it.
Oh, yeah, license 8468.
Yeah.
Yeah, got it.
Okay.
Right. So if you go down to the end, you find the plans, right? So there's one, and then the other one has so you can see it has retaining walls, riprap, and then if you go to the next one, it's got sections. And
So
it's
where is
all-
mean high water now?
it's 3.82 in the datum we're using now. This is based on a sea level datum. This is, you know, a datum we no longer use.
Okay.
And you can see actually the date up top. So this was 2000 is when this was licensed. So
No
it's
wonder I don't.
right. And
I
it's
don't
a
remember
project
it.
description to license and maintain an existing bulkhead. But of course it's also revetment because that's what's also shown.
So what's on that plan that's labeled as retaining wall is the bulkhead?
Yeah. So there's a bulkhead, which is kind of faced by stone. And there's, you can almost see there's a line cut through there as well. That is where mean high water was running right there.
And that would be higher now, correct? It's 25 years later.
Yeah, but remember, we're still in the same, we might be in a newer epic, but the current epic, mean high water is always a backwards looking number, the way it's done, right? It's a tidal epic, and I'm not sure what, I think the current tidal epic ended in 2014. They're about to update, NOAA's about to update the tidal epics nationwide.
Okay.
And actually it says it's NGV 29, but that's not 29. That's one of the issues that we struggled with, is that the datums and the information on the contours, we had to convert it based on survey of points that we know the elevation hasn't changed on.
Okay. What else for now?
That's it. I mean, my purpose tonight, knowing that we're in natural heritage, we have to address DEP comments, and that you guys are going to have questions and probably want to do a site visit, was to come in and just kind of introduce everything to you tonight, answer, you know, some of the more basic questions, and then look to you know, get the site visit underway and continue this out to your first meeting in May.
Okay. So Are there any questions, comments from the public? Raise your hand. All right, I don't see any. So you want a continuance to the first meeting in May?
Yes. That's the next available meeting. That's it is luckily, so it's 3 weeks out, which does give us plenty of time to set up that site visit.
Okay, yeah. So that would be May 6th. Can I get a
Okay,
motion?
motion to continue to May 6th.
Second,
All right, Steve Moore,
Yes.
Barb Riley,
Yes.
Dan Warshall,
yes.
and I vote yes. All right, thank you. Next item is Eric Premack, 570 Merrimack Street. Continued from March 18th.
All right. Good evening. Tom Hughes with Hughes Environmental Consulting. Here on behalf of Eric Primack, and Steve Sawyer may be here. He was hoping to
Yeah,
join
Steve,
us.
are you
He's
with
in
us?
Newbury.
Yeah, he's there.
Okay, excellent. All right. Yeah, he'd been over in the Newbury meeting, so having 5 Basin go first allowed him time to join. So that's excellent. All right. So we still are working on a couple things, but we did spend some time after the last hearing and the site visit doing some plan updates. I wanted to go through.
Tom?
Yes.
Tom, apologies, this is Andy Port. I just wanted to know, it looked like Steve might have lost his connection to the meeting. He seems to have, oh, there he is.
yeah.
Just want to make sure he could speak. So Steve, are you still with us?
Oh, there he is. Yeah.
I'm back. Excuse me, I'm back on. Thank you.
Okay, sorry. Just want to make sure your team was all together.
Yep.
Thank you. Sorry.
Okay. Also, I will note that if you hear a lot of chirping in the background, I am sitting in my dining room with my brooder with 24 chicks in it right next to me. So, so I'll apologize in advance for that, or in hindsight after my last hearing. So we made some plan changes. If we can go back to the first page you were on, Andy. This doesn't make any difference to the buffer zones to coastal bank, but we did update the coastal bank definition. That, as I think you guys are all aware, the way you determine coastal bank is through a DEP policy as well as in the coastal handbook as well. But where you cut cross sections, and it has to do with changes in slope in relation to where you are with respect to the water and to the flood elevation. And it's a really complex process, especially on a site like this. So we initially drew a couple transects and we extended the coastal bank sort of uniformly. And there are some places where there's a first bank which is present the whole way along the Merrimack River and along the creek. But then there's a second bank that's present in a couple of places as you move further into the site. So those were better defined, but when you ultimately draw the buffer zones off those, it really doesn't change anything material to our regulatory analysis or anything. It just makes the resource areas just better defined. The next thing that we did is after the site visit and after taking a look at an area that had originally been flagged as wetland, we reached out to DPS to just find out the history of an area that looked more like a stormwater structure than it did a wetland area. But Mark West of West Environmental is an excellent wetland scientist from, had flagged this site. And he had included it, but now that we understand better what that is, we've actually removed 2 of the flags that captured what is actually a stilling basin that was installed when the city did the Rotary project by the city. So it is a very recent stormwater structure, from an environmental sort of history point of view, intended to be maintained as such. And since it receives no other water except what comes out of a stormwater drain line, it would not be jurisdictional. And there is a berm between that depression and the creek and the generally broader BVW area. So we did remove that. The other thing that we did is we looked at how that related to the 25-foot, and I'll show you on the engineering plans next. If we can go down to the engineering plans. Yeah, so if you zoom in on this, so what we were able to do is when we actually draw the 25-foot from what are the jurisdictional wetland areas and not including the stormwater structure, our grading was still within 25 feet. So we have added a landscape boulder wall 3 feet tall at the highest and in a curved nature, you can see right there. So we are no longer doing grading or anything like that within the 25. And then the other thing that we have done is there was an area of lawn that goes down close to the creek. You can kind of see the zigzag off to the right of where that stilling basin is, right in there. And if you move the cursor a little bit to the right, a little bit further, a little bit further, a little bit further till it turns green. Okay, right in that area, we expanded our native removal and native planting area into that area of lawn that goes down. The one thing that we may want to do, which we'll show on the, we're going to finish our maintenance and sort of landscape maintenance and management protocol, is we may leave a small footpath so you can get down to the creek, because right now you can actually get down to the water and it's a pretty nice spot. So we may try to leave just like a 3-foot wide path down there, and be interested in your feedback on that if that's something you'd be okay with. And then the other main elements that were changed is we updated a landscape plan to go along with that. Let me just double check. So we've also submitted to you the Steve's response to the planning board that addresses other revisions that are kind of outside of conservation jurisdiction or interest. And then the other thing we want to make note of is that we are going to be proposing a conservation deed restriction for the open space area that's a part of Lot 4B. And we also are agreeing that the floats from the dock system will be stored outside of jurisdiction or off-site, which 99% they'll be off-site, but they'll certainly be out of conservation jurisdiction. So you can see the landscape plan. The other thing we did is we added the invasive control area and the edge of existing woody vegetation within there. You can see the clouded area. There was a question on site as to whether or not we were actually planting in areas that were already vegetated. And you can see that while we're planting right up to the edge of that, we're not actually getting in and changing the nature of the planted area other than by, the existing vegetated area, except by removal of invasives and planting natives. So with that, I think that's kind of the main update. We don't yet have our natural heritage letter. We did get our DEP comments. Our DEP comments are really pretty straightforward. They have to do with needing a 401 water quality cert, which we will respond to, and really nothing major in terms of the overall project itself. They do also want us to identify the trees that will be included as part of the invasive thing. So we will also detail that. And I think that was also something the commission had asked, and we don't have any intent on removing any large trees. There are no invasive trees, and we certainly would be planting some. So, but we'll get that, we'll respond to DEP in detail. So with that, I guess, I'd like to, open it up to the commission, see if you still have questions or things we can answer, and try to move this forward. We do have planning board tomorrow night, and if it seems like any remaining issues have to do with that sort of landscape plan and details about the dock, et cetera, we just want to get a sense of whether or not we should be moving forward at planning tomorrow night.
Tom, the deed restriction, will that contain language about maintaining the wetland?
Yes. Yeah. So the deed restriction, if Andy, if you can go back up to the civil plan. And then if you could zoom out a little bit. So we have a number of different areas, and this is sort of the complexity of writing up this overall management plan. And the management plan will be incorporated into the deed restriction, is we will show on the plan set an area subject to the restriction. And it will include things like the existing carriage path that goes down to the dock. And that goes through the wetland. We would include in that would be mowed of, no wider than whatever the existing width of it is, on and routinely, but the areas adjacent to it would be subject to annual mowing, if it's in the wetland, and probably biannual mowing if it's, well, actually, if it's in pollinator, it's going to be annual mowing as well. But if it's anything else, it'll be sort of limited mowing. It will also allow in the future, provided it gets appropriate permitting from the Conservation Commission, we'd like to leave the option open to doing like an elevated walkway that meets all the current standards about width and height ratios, et cetera, all the way down there. Just thinking in the future with sea level rise, et cetera, if that area becomes wetter and it makes it harder to pass to get down to the dock, we would want to leave something like that in as an alternative. And then it would also include Phragmites control within the wet meadow area. It would include ongoing ability to do invasive control throughout that open space area. And then it would just include sort of all the different protocols for how you manage different areas. Areas around the relocated shed that, I think we're referring to it as the boathouse, the one that is sort of middle of the site, not the one down by the water. That will probably be mowed a little more regularly right around it. But then, so we'll include demarcation of these different areas as well. So hopefully that answers your question, but the answer is yes, it's going to be a fairly detailed protocol, and we're going to try to color the plan up and use a similar color grid to what we've used on other projects.
If I could, through the chair, this is Andy Port. Obviously for tracking the planning board discussion tomorrow night, and obviously want the plans to be in parallel. Just a suggestion relative to that plan or delineation, just because there's so many lines on this particular type of drawing, it may be necessary for a separate drawing sheet or at least clearer line types just to distinguish things on these plans at this point. And also the language, it might be good to, when you're circling back, to clarify the proposed language for the deed restriction so everybody's on the same page about what is being restricted in that particular boundary or area.
Right.
Thanks.
Right. So we don't intend for this to be the thing. We're going to actually make an exhibit sheet for that. And it's a good point, Andy. And typically, like we did this for Port Place, and we've done it for other projects where we essentially color up the plan, and then we produce an Excel table where we use the same colors at the heading of the columns on how it's maintained. So it's an easy to read sheet. And our intent is to give you guys kind of the draft maintenance. Well, the maintenance plan would be pretty close to final, but it's going to be a living document so that it can be changed with conservation approval as we learn new things and we learn what works and what doesn't work. But also the deed restriction would be something where we're going to give you kind of an outline of what would include. but we would expect a condition that, you know, a final be submitted prior to some, and we'll have to talk about what the right trigger would be, but for review and approval by the city. And so we'll work all that out. We're not intending on handing you sort of a final deed restriction language that you have to have in hand before you issue the order of conditions. We'd like to have something that's sort of agreed to in principle and in draft, and then finalized, working with the city cooperatively.
And I would just thought for the commission, it makes sense to me. I was more interested in just the substantive, you know, description of what the restriction is. And here that perfectly works fine for me as far as a condition for implementation later on, just as long as the substance of the restriction and the reasonable boundaries of it are clear enough on the plan. So that's all.
Right. And I don't know if Jeff Roloffs has joined. He was also in Newbury, but if he is out there, you could unmute him. He may have more to say on that, but I think,
Doesn't appear to be with us just yet.
Yeah, I don't see
Yeah.
them.
okay. But
With that restriction, the deeded restriction area, you're gonna survey that and then demarcate it?
yeah, the idea would be we will have a clear demarcation of it, and we have a couple different options. We do already have an area with a fence. I think we're probably going to do something like maybe posts with birdhouses or just posts that will be placed out there with some kind of marker. And then some of the areas we probably want to within it, we probably want to mark because we want people to understand when they're in the wet meadow versus in the pollinated meadow. So so we still have, you know, it's simple to talk about, but the devil's in the details of actually getting it so that it is implementable and relatively easy for somebody to look at our exhibit, look at our protocol, and then stand on the ground and understand it. And that's kind of what we're working on right now.
Okay. Do we have anything else?
Yeah, I was
For
just
now.
wondering about the pathway down to the creek. Is that just going to be like mowed grass, or is there going to be?
Yeah, I mean, it's already lawn. So
Yeah.
what we would do is we just leave a stretch, and, you know, it will probably become more like a hiking trail over time, because as the stuff grows in on either side, it may not get enough light for it to be, you know, maintained as lawn. But yeah, I think it would just be something like that, and maybe stepping stones, but something that would be pretty close to what's exempt under the Rivers Act anyway. I think the Rivers Act regs, I think you can have a 32-inch pedestrian path. And maybe we'll just go with that 32-inch, but.
Okay.
Okay. Do we have anything else?
No.
See nothing, anything from the public? Any comments from the public? I see no comments from the public. So you want to go to the May 6th meeting?
Yes, and before we do that, I guess as part of the continuance, I think the remaining questions, if I'm reading the commission proceedings correctly, are really about documenting the open space management, deed restriction, things like that, and not really about the shared roadway, the stormwater system, the things that are really more subject to the planning board review. And I just, if the commission is comfortable with conveying something to the planning board that they're comfortable with that process moving forward tomorrow night as part of the continuance, that would be appreciated. We'd like to at least kind of get that part taken care of, and we'll work with you guys to, you know, dot all the i's, cross all the t's on the remaining parts.
Yeah, well, the only issue is, didn't you just upload the new documents?
Yeah, so they just came up, you know,
Yesterday.
they just came up yesterday. So I guess, you know, that would be the other question. If you know, obviously the resource area changes, we can continue to discuss them. Even the grading down from the cul-de-sac, I suppose we can continue to discuss, but I think it's pretty obvious. And I think Joe, I think I may have actually put you on the CC chain because Julia was in or past her final days, but I think John Eric did confirm in response
Oh,
to
I did see John Eric confirming that, but my point is we just got these new plans yesterday. So you know, as far as I don't know, making any recommendations or anything, we got kind of need time to look at the plans too.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, nothing's changed above, you know, if we can go back, Andy, for a second to the site plan.
Yeah, if I could, just for clarification as well from the planning board side, I mean, the real question here, I think, in terms of relationship to tomorrow night is just whether or not the plan set is going to be modified somehow. So if there are potentially going to be changes to the plan, you know, that are, you know, of notable nature, and you know, we should probably make sure these plan sets are consistent between planning board and conservation commission. If it's to Tom's earlier point, not a plan change and it's about conditions or things like that that could be reflected on another plan sheet or whatnot, then it might make sense for the planning board to possibly close out on the same exact project tomorrow night. But that's what I think one thing we'd be helpful to know from the commission's perspective tonight, whether or not there are plan changes needed. Because if that's the case, I generally speaking would not recommend closing the planning board hearing, because then we'd have inconsistencies between plan sets right out of the gates. So
yeah. And Andy, the viewport, I think, on the planning board application, I don't think it goes all the way down to the water, right? Doesn't it stop kind of?
yeah, we're not considering or involved with the area down there by the river so much. Yeah.
Yeah. So you're looking really at the two homes, the turnarounds, the driveways, and the shared drive. Is that?
Yeah, well, it's just that some of the improvements in the grading and the stormwater management, though, are in that same area, right? So it's just that if you're making changes in this area, it may impact that planning board plan set. It's not so much the area, anything down here, of course, but it's just that all these improvements are really tied in that planning board set. So again, just to prevent confusion, if the commission and the applicant here are expecting changes, it seems to lean away from the planning board closing out tomorrow night. I think our hopes were here that if the commission was able to close out tonight, then the planning board could close out tomorrow night, or if we knew it was the same plan set. But if it's not necessarily the same plan set, best practices don't, you know, suggest that two boards issue permits for the same project and have right out of the gates inconsistent expectations for grading or stormwater or things like that. So.
Well, yeah, but I don't want to lock myself into anything that I haven't gone through the plans yet. So
Okay. Yeah, and I guess my point was nothing has changed in terms of stormwater from what you saw last time, and nothing's changed other than the base of the grading down on that cul-de-sac area, the sort of area of planning board interest. So it's a pretty minimal change in that area. So, but I, you know, totally respect, we got the plans in Mondays. So if you need more time, you need more time. But we're just trying to ferret that out because we don't want to obviously planning board go forward if there is a risk of a change from the commission in that area.
Well, what do other folks on the commission think?
I don't see anything. My primary issue that I had is addressed in this revised plan set. The addition of the stone wall or retaining wall down to eliminate any work within the 25-foot no disturb was the biggest issue that I had. So I don't foresee anything being an issue from what I see.
Yeah, I don't either.
Okay.
I don't either.
Okay, so there it is.
Okay, so it seems like if the planning board's comfortable that we could go forward with that, but you know, as I said, we're committed to working this through with you guys the whole way with regards to the deed restriction and the and maintaining invasive control out there, et cetera. And I think, as you saw from the site visit, and just to document what was seen at the site visit, the area is, you know, 100% mowed and maintained as lawn, and we're looking at really kind of giving nature an awful lot of area back in a way that I think provides an awful lot of benefits.
Okay. All right then. What does the commission want to do? We want to continue? or?
Yeah, I think we need to continue,
Okay.
and see what's in that deed restriction and all that language.
Yeah, we
Do you
also have to get
something-
we have to get our heritage letter too, and the heritage habitat does not extend anywhere near the development end of it.
Okay. All right, so we talking May 6th?
Yes.
Okay.
I was just gonna say too, that in that language, you wanna be able to add, the walkway down. Is that something that would need to get approved prior to being put into that deed restriction? Cause you're kind of looking for an approval within the deed restriction, right?
Well, what we would be looking for, and this is not out of the ordinary with, full conservation restrictions, is you define an area and you say what could be done there. It still may or may not need permits. And obviously an elevated walkway is going to need permits. We
Right.
would just identify that within this, imagine, I think we're going to have like A, B, C, D, E for areas within that, right? And so it would say within area A, an elevated walkway to access the dock could be constructed with appropriate permits and, meeting the best management practice at the time.
Okay.
The DEP comment, I have to say, I'm glad you asked it. The DEP comment about the 401 water quality cert. Normally I would go the deed restriction way, where you just basically say, okay, no more wetland impacts. But that would then be a wetland impact if we did an elevated walkway. So I've got to figure out whether we do the full, the full 401 water quality cert versus the deed restriction. That's one of the things we'll grapple with between now and then. The other thing we could do would be to show a walkway on the plan as an optional thing, quantify its impacts, and then show a, replication area if that were to be implemented as kind of a conceptual thing to have within the approval, but basically call it as an optional elevated walkway. But I don't want to complicate permitting with you guys.
Okay.
Joe, I just took a quick look at my calendar. I'm not going to be here for the next meeting. I won't be available to attend remotely either.
Okay. All right. Well,
Okay. Well, I'm glad you said that. If that's the case, I'll talk to the team about whether we re-advertise and re-notice if you're going to have new members at the next meeting, and then we could take this up. Especially because the one new member that I know you're getting is very familiar with the project and has essentially attended the hearings anyway. So I think that, maybe we can do that and not have a delay.
okay.
Sorry, I would have mentioned it earlier, but it slipped my mind until just now, so.
No, that's fine. Is what it is. All right, so let's we will continue it until May 6th, and we'll deal with what comes.
Okay, and just as a note, I will not be at the May 20th meeting.
You're just making things harder now. Hopefully it won't matter whether you're at it or not.
Actually,
Okay.
I can't be at the May 20th either.
Oh boy. Well, that's gonna matter. Okay.
Yeah, fun month of May.
Yeah. All right. Well, then let's take care of that and deal with the 20th when it comes.
Okay, so I'll make a motion to continue to May 6th.
Second,
All right, Steve Moore,
Yes.
Barb Riley,
Yes.
Dan Warshall,
yes.
and I vote yes.
All right. Thank you very much.
All right. Next item is Michael Ewick, 11 Flora Street, notice of intent.
Good evening. Steve Sawyer with Millennium Engineering. to discuss this one. Andy, I don't know if you can go to the narrative and bring up there's a couple pictures in there. Okay, either could
Just
you?
one sec. Sorry, it wasn't, hang on a
Yeah.
second. I didn't expect that one. Hang on.
Sorry.
No, it's okay. Normally I got the plan sheets and narratives. Don't, hang on a sec. Narrative maps. Yep.
There
Okay.
we go. Yeah, so we can zoom in on the picture, in the photograph there. So at the end of 11 Flora, we're proposing a small seasonal float. Small seasonal float, as you can see, there's one already, there's an existing one just south of this float here. It's just an 8x20 seasonal float with a 35-foot ramp from above down to the water. It will rest in the mud at low tide, as you can see. And so that's the location. If you scroll down, there's a couple pictures. So this is looking straight down the slope. You can see it's a riprap and stone slope. There'll be a small 4x4 platform on helicals at the top of the slope with through-flow decking, with a ramp will launch down to the float down in the mudflat. And there's a side view in the next picture. Scroll down. So this is looking back towards where you can see there's a wall just south, so that we're looking south towards the other property. But so directly in front of this, there'll be a small platform at the top of the slope with a 35-foot ramp down to the float, down to the seasonal float. So we can jump to the plan set now. Would be great. So probably just zoom. You can zoom in on the right side. The proposed. There we go. So as you can see at the top of the slope, the 4x4 platform on helical corkscrew piles, minimal impact there, negligible impact with the 35-foot ramp that will span across the riprap slope down to the seasonal float with helical anchors to reduce impact, so no blocks, the helical anchors. And it's basically it. I think I'm sorry, Michael York is also on tonight. If you have any questions of the landowner, but you can also see we added the storage location. So his plan is to pull the floats with a winch, tripod winch, and on the land side, and store in the sand area up on his property. Would be the plan for the winter storage. We have received a letter from Natural Heritage, and we actually just received today, I think this morning, a comment from Fisheries. And the only comment it's going to require us to change our design is originally we had an 18-inch float skid to keep the bottom of the float off the mud. They're asking that we provide 30-inch. So I did update the plan and did upload it, so there is an updated plan with today's revision date in the portal with the 30-inch flood skid. Okay, we have it. Actually, if you jump to the next sheet, so you can see here in profile view the ramp and the float, and those the flood skids keep the bottom of the float well off the mud flat. And if you can pan right, I did add the note to the float detail calling out the float skids to be 30-inch, provide 30-inch minimum clearance. And that's about it. It's a fairly simple float, seasonal float, commonly done down in the basin. We did receive a comment from DEP, and the comment from DEP was saying that it required a Chapter 91 license, which typically these don't. There's just it's a 10A harbor master permit for these small floats. And I did email Georgia, the reviewer from DEP, and she was unavailable, but her coworker did respond. I do have an email from him confirming that if all permanent structures are above mean high water, he agrees that no Chapter 91 or Chapter 90 license is required. So it's keeping it short and sweet, and that's what we're proposing here.
Okay, Steve, can you upload that email?
Yes, I can.
Yeah, once you do that.
Yep.
So anybody have any questions?
No, the only question I had was about storage, and they answered that already, so I'm okay.
Okay,
Nothing for me.
okay. Barb, you all set?
Yep, I'm all set.
Okay, all right. Any comments from the public? Okay, I don't see any. So can I get a motion?
Motion to close the public hearing?
Second,
Steve Moore,
Yes.
Barb Riley,
Yes,
Dan Warshall,
yes.
and I vote yes. All right, thank you, Steve.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, last one. Newburyport Development, 58 McKay's Wharf, notice of intent.
And I believe we have, for that one, I think we have Paul Avery and Chris Skiba. Oh, Paul, there you are. Yep. Sorry, just making sure. Paul and Chris, are you there with us?
Can you hear me?
Yes, thank you.
Okay. Paul Avery, Consulting Group, representing Newburyport Development. Do you want to, perfect. Exactly the right place to start. We'll try to keep this really simple. The site is circled there. It is a pier. It is located in front of Riverside Condominiums, but it's not part of that project. It's part of the Windward Yacht Yard, which is shown as like the green parcel there. That's really what this is all about. If you go to the photo log, I think, yeah, that one right up there, the first one shows pretty clearly what we're looking at, that you'll notice that the lights there are nice and plumb and straight, but the gate, not so much. The pier is falling into disrepair due to rotting piles. So what we are proposing to do is to replace in kind, taking out the timber piles and putting in steel ones in its place. The pier will be reconstructed in kind. There's no proposed change in the layout, size, shape, or anything else. The deck will probably just be dismantled and reconstructed for convenience, if for no other reason. But you know, there's really no change to it proposed. So this is strictly a repair in kind project. We filed our notice of intent. We sent letters into Natural Heritage and Fisheries. We have heard back from Fisheries that because this is in sturgeon season that runs now until like July sometime, and we are hoping to get this work done as soon as possible so that the repairs can be ready for the boating season. That is the sturgeon breedings, and they talked about doing bubble curtains as sound mitigation for piles. And that's it. We'll take any questions.
Are you raising the height of the deck at all?
Nope. The deck matches the existing pier, the municipal boardwalk that goes through there. It's
right.
Yep. So it's basically proposing to just replace the kind, same elevation.
I was just thinking that with sea level rise, you might want to do that because I think that deck is underwater in a real high tide now. I guess that's your choice, but
yeah, okay. I mean, that would be a consideration. We'd have, to do a ramp to get up to that, which would complicate the construction a bit, but yeah, I mean, I suppose.
Yeah, that's up to you guys, because it does during storms and really high tides, that's underwater, and and the rail trail that matches it, is underwater too.
Well, if the rail trail's underwater, we wouldn't be able to get to it at that point anyway, so, but yeah, we
True.
can consider that.
But, yeah, no, that's, I don't know that that would be a requirement for us right now, but it's, an FYI.
Okay.
Anybody else?
Nope.
Okay.
No?
Do you
Okay.
have a DEP file on the file number?
I can look.
I'll look right now. Uh, You do have one. 051-1090. Okay. All right, are we good?
Well, they need a
Any
letter from
comment?
that.
What's
They
that?
need a
Oh,
letter from
natural
that.
heritage. We still need a natural heritage letter. Yes, we do.
Right.
Okay, so we'll continue to the next meeting. Yay, nay, do we want?
Yes,
Yeah. Well, I mean,
Okay.
yeah.
What,
Motion to continue to May 6th.
so,
second,
in,
Hang on, let's table that for a second. Yes, Chris?
in order for, so our marina, guest, arrival date is mid-May. And we were hoping to start this work in April. Is there an opportunity, either through emergency repair or through some other means to start this work in April? Like if Paul is to get the National Heritage letter, in the next X number of days, is there a possibility of starting earlier?
Our Andy, is there a way we can add a special condition requiring the
Prior to the start of the work. Yeah,
say again?
yeah, I was gonna comment on that. I see Julia's raised her hand, so I'm
Okay.
fine if she wants to speak first, and then I can comment as I was gonna go ahead.
Okay, go ahead, Julia.
Yeah, don't want to cut you off, Andy, but I would just add that I mean, I think it would be typically we wouldn't do this before natural heritage because they would potentially, the reason why you wait for the natural heritage is because they could potentially insert conditions like time of year restrictions or time of day or they would have special conditions that we would need to incorporate into our order for them to do the work. And so I would say in this case, if you wanted to issue the order with some sort of contingency around they can start work after the natural heritage letter comes in, assuming that would come in before, the next couple of weeks or whatever, when the next hearing would be. I think you could do that as long as we have a pretty good understanding from Paul, Paul, you implied that you think you pretty much know what their conditions would be.
We've done a bunch of these repairs here, and they typically haven't really had any conditions at all in some of the recent ones we've done in this area. So I'm not expecting conditions from them. That doesn't mean they won't have some, but I don't expect any.
So the bubble curtain that you were talking about, are these things that you're thinking about employing or that you will?
No, we will we will do that. I mean, that was one of the conditions that was suggested, required, however you want to put it. One of the conditions proposed by fisheries.
Yeah. Okay.
Excuse
So I
me.
guess if you're working through fisheries and incorporating their conditions, you could risk it going ahead before you get the natural heritage letter. Just typically we wouldn't do that. But again, it would be something that if they then got upset, you might have to do
If I
something.
could,
Yeah.
I'm just going to offer, obviously Joe's had a lot of experience with the commission here and the regulations, just a thought that you could possibly condition if you're comfortable with the plans and with the work that needs to be done. I think it's relatively confined and straightforward what's being done here, just in that respect. If it's really about the timing of the work and the methodology or anything of that nature from either fisheries or national heritage, you could just condition it upon compliance with, stipulations that they're established in their letters, and that way that's a condition of your approval, whatever those requirements are, whether it's for the sturgeon or anything else that is covered in there. And that way you wouldn't necessarily have to continue to the next meeting, but again, defer to you.
Right. We would sort of, that's exactly what we would do. I think anyway, it's just a matter of timing, because you can say we would incorporate the conditions of whatever issuance letter they supply, but if they start work before that letter comes out, then it doesn't really jive. But
Yeah, no, I mean, I would obviously my suggestion would be to condition it upon the receipt of that letter prior to the start of any work,
Yeah.
period. Yeah.
I think that, yeah, that's great. I think that works.
Okay, yeah, and that's fine with me too. I would just also want that letter uploaded to the file on the city website too.
The fisheries one?
The
This would
fisheries
be
and
both
natural
national
heritage.
heritage.
Yeah,
and that's
okay, yeah, I can
right
upload the
now.
fisheries one. It was, I think Julia got a copy of it, but, well, it's interesting because Steve was just saying on the float project that preceded us here that he just got the fisheries today and hadn't heard from Heritage, and that's exactly what happened with us. So I think whoever was in the fisheries decided to go through his inbox today, and Heritage hasn't quite gotten there yet. Yeah, so if you scroll down on this one, the conditions on the next page, you'll see what they're talking about.
Yeah.
It's it says basically yeah, go down to the next page. Yeah, based on, oh, there it is. Okay, so should the applicant propose to conduct pile driving the time of year restriction, which is April 1 to July 15, you got to implement it, and what we'd say, it says here, measures included sound monitoring during the turbidity curtains. Smaller structures like piles may only require a circular bubble curtain. So that's what we're going with.
Yeah.
Okay.
So
Okay.
I would just
We-
refer to that condition in the order of conditions and say that the project shall comply with special conditions issued by Department of Fisheries.
Yeah,
I
and
agree.
related
I agree
whatever.
with that.
Yeah.
Okay. That good with everybody?
Well,
Yep.
I would like to suggest to the applicant, if they want to start work on a project in April, coming before the commission on April 15th, it really doesn't work for us. You should have come in here months ago, or at least back in March. Because now you've put us in a condition of having to
Understood.
wait.
I think a lot of this, that, the conditions here were revealed, after the ice left and all of that, so. But understood and well noted.
Okay, I'll make a motion to close the public hearing.
Second,
All right, roll call, Steve Moore,
Yes.
Barbara Riley,
Yes,
Dan Warshaw.
yes.
Okay, and I vote yes. All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Probably helps with the issues related to our, our attendance coming up in the next couple meetings anyway, so might as well just move it along
Yeah,
if we can.
all right, that's all we have for notices of intent. So can I get a motion to close the public hearings?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor? Aye,
Aye.
opposed? Hopefully I did that right, Gretchen. One other issue, Andy, do we have any updates on 8 S Street?
I do
Yeah,
not
and-
myself. If anybody, Julie might actually have more information on that. I apologize. I've not got anything new on that.
Yeah, I think I don't either. The last we got from them was when they showed up at our last meeting and gave us that sort of explanation about where they were, which is that they're planning on they're putting together the notice of intent. They're doing architectural drawings, etc. And we challenged them on a few issues, mainly that they actually can't expand. They talked about putting an addition on the existing house, and we told them that they don't actually have the square footage allowable in the V zone to put an addition on the house. So I wasn't really sure why they were going down that road with an architect. And, it is what it is. So maybe that's where they're stuck right now, just sort of trying to figure that all out.
Okay. Thank you. All right. Let's move to orders of conditions. We have Michael York, 11 Flora Street. What did we have? Do we have any? We didn't have any special conditions for them, right? Not that I can remember.
I didn't see anything special on that one.
Yeah, okay.
So all of the usual Plum Island stuff would be
Yes.
in that order.
So standard conditions and standard Plum Island conditions, correct?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. And with that.
Motion to issue the order of conditions?
Second,
All right, roll call, Steve Moore,
yes.
Barb Riley,
Yes.
Dan Warshaw,
Yes.
and I vote yes. And I skipped over River Valley Charter School. I don't know that we had, first of all, we gotta do the variance, correct?
Yeah.
Yeah, there was discussion, but to take the formal vote, yeah.
Okay,
Yeah. Well, I already made the motion, but I'll make it again.
okay,
Motion to issue the variance for River Valley Charter School.
Second.
all right, roll call, Steve Moore,
Yes.
Barb Riley,
Yes.
Dan Warshaw,
Yes.
and I vote yes. All right, on the order of conditions. I don't know, did we have any special ones for that either?
I don't think so.
I don't think so either. Okay,
Seeing anything in that either. Yep.
all right, so you get a motion?
Motion to issue the order of conditions for River Valley Charter School.
Second.
All right, roll call, Steve Moore,
Yes.
Barb Riley,
Yes.
Dan Warshaw,
Yes.
and I vote yes. Okay. And last but not least, Newburyport Development, 58 McKay's Wharf. So we want that special condition regarding adhering to fisheries special conditions. Did we want to do natural heritage? For
Yeah, I
natural
think
heritage?
you wanted to say they couldn't start until we get a natural heritage letter.
I
Okay,
understood
yeah.
that it was after the receipt of that letter and that it would include compliance with both the fisheries and national heritage letter requirements for going about the work.
Okay. Yep, that works for me.
Okay,
Get a
motion to issue the order of conditions.
Second.
All right, roll call, Steve Moore,
Yes.
Barbara Riley,
Yes.
Dan Warshaw,
Yes.
and I vote yes. All right, okay. Do we have anything else for this meeting?
Sorry, we're looking to obviously fill Julia's position. It's hard to fill, but hoping to have someone soon enough to be able to roll in with you. So we'll circle back as soon as we know.
That would be very good. And looking forward to her getting approved. I also had a meeting with Kate Martin today, who's also interested in being on the commission. So within the next few weeks, we may have a full commission again.
Good.
Sounds good.
All right. Anything else?
Joe, you gonna send out an email on a site visit or?
Yes, yeah, I'll probably do it Friday, send it out and see when folks can make it.
Okay,
Since Tom's already, didn't he say he was slammed all the way through next week or Wednesday
Yeah.
next week, something, so
Yeah,
we can do it somewhere in there. We have 3 weeks to the next meeting, so. Alrighty. Take one more motion.
motion to adjourn.
second.
All in favor?
I
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Sorry about that. All right.
All right, good night.
See you guys, see you guys whenever we see you again. All righty.
it's
Good
just
night.
me and you, Joe, for May 20th.
Yay. Well, maybe we'll have 2 new people and
Oh, that'd be good.
they can help out. All righty.
The newbies.
Yes, exactly. Well, one not newbie or not at all newbie and one newbie, but that's all right. All right, guys.
All right.
Thank you.